Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here and to hear all these inspiring talks. And I'm a neonatologist from Norway, and what I'm going to present is our research project from Norway. We are looking at neonatal transport and how that affects the neonate. And since I'm from Norway, I have to do a little introduction about Norway. Norway is a small country. We have 5 million inhabitants, but it's a fairly long country, so it's like from the north to the south, it's about 1,200 miles, and the climate is pretty rough. You have cold weather and long winters with lots of snow, and also it's kind of difficult with transportation because we have high mountains, fjords, and a lot of narrow roads. And you see those 4 blue spots on the map. These are the main hospitals in Norway. So they will care for newborns between 22 to 25 weeks. And also, like the main hospital is in Oslo, the southern part of Norway. And here all the surgery is performed. And all the incubator transports and all that are always performed by anesthetist or pediatrician together with a specialized nurse. And we have around 350 incubator transports every year in Norway, so it's a small number compared to the US. So our study, there's a prospective observational study where we so far have included around 30 patients. And this slide is going to illustrate the patient flow during our study. So let's consider we have a 24-weeker that's born in one of the main hospitals, or actually in Oslo. And it's now 3 weeks old. And the baby is on CPAP, extubated 5 days ago. The baby receives steroids, and it's on full feeds, and the weight is around 800 grams. And this baby is going to be transferred back to the local hospital. And then we start the inclusion at the referral hospital. We will gather the clinical information about the patient, and we will also do the clinical pain scoring together with saliva sampling, as is shown in the illustration. So the patient can be transferred back depending on the distance to the local hospital with either rotor wing, road ambulance, or the jet. So during the transfer, we will measure the environmental factors, so which is the vibration that's measured by having a rubber mat underneath the baby. And then we do measure the sound within the incubator, and we measure temperature both inside and outside the incubator. And during the transport, we will also do a clinical evaluation of the patient. And what we are monitoring, we are monitoring the continuous blood flow during the whole transport, and there's a sensor on the fontanelle. And we will also do skin conductance measurements, which is a sign of pain or stress in the neonate. And the vital parameters are measured like a routine, and we will just collect those information from the monitors, and that will be the temperature of the baby, the blood pressure, heart rates, and SATs. And then when the baby is coming back to the local hospital, the receiving hospital, we will immediately do the clinical pain scoring together with the saliva sampling. And also that will be repeated after 24 hours. So, and then I'm going to say a little bit what we found when we are measuring the environmental factors. So the first slide here is showing the vibration in the helicopter. So vibration, what is this? That's the acceleration in 3 different axes. So for a supine baby, the x-axis is going from the toes to the head, and the y-axis is going from the side to side. And the z-axis, that's from the back to the front of the baby. But in a sitting adult, the z-axis is from through the spine, or like from the seat of the adult. So that would be the crew or the pilot. So just show you on the graph there, the gray is the sitting adult in the z-axis. The red is the 2 kilogram baby, and the blue is the 500 gram baby. So what we see is that the vibration is highest on the smallest weights, and that's kind of easy to understand. It's less force needed to move a small weight. But what are the implications of this for the baby? We know that there are international standards for what are acceptable levels of vibration in adults, but there are no such standards in neonates. And we measured the sound in the helicopter. And if you see the graph on the left side, there is the sound intensity. And to notify, like the 20 to 30 decibels, then there's the soft whispering and the rustling leaves. And the conversation, that would be 50 to 60 decibels. And I put a NICU environment in between, because the recommendations for the sound in the NICU, that's around 45 decibels, and the maximum peaks of 65 decibels. So when we are measuring the sound within the helicopter, we found that during the cruising speed, the sound level within the incubator is around 85 decibels, and about 10 decibels more outside the incubator. But we do have peaks that are up to 117 decibels. And I put that also on the graph. And that is almost as much as there is on a rock concert. And then I'm going to say something about the clinical evaluation of the baby. Neodoppler, that's a fairly new invention, and it's invented in Norway. And that's a continuous blood flow velocity monitoring. And then you put a sensor on the fontanelle, and you can measure the blood flow to the main arteries in the brain. And you see the tracings on the left. The upper one, that's the blood flow velocity. And then we made another index called the cerebral perfusion index. And that is the total average velocity divided by the peak systolic velocity. And that will tell you something about how well the brain is perfused. And on the third graph, then there is the heart rate of the baby. And you can see that this baby had some bradycardia during the start of the transport. And also we can measure different, like the resistive index, we can measure the pulsative index, and we can kind of play around with these numbers. And then we also have the low frequency oscillation, which are more subtle changes or the heart rate variability. And we do think that that can kind of indicate if there is some stress in the neonate during transport. And then the skin conductance. That's kind of the same technology as we do have in lie detectors. So when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, the person or the baby will start sweating, and that will increase the electrical conductance on the skin. And this will be monitored, and we have a score between 0 to 10, and 10 is the highest score. And then we are also measuring hormones from saliva to make sure we're not doing any blood sampling. That would be stressful for the baby. And then we are measuring cortisol, and that's more indicative of chronic stress in the baby. And then we're also trying to measure metanephrines, which are degradation products of adrenaline and noradrenaline, and that's going to reflect more acute stress. So what our goal is try to find if there are any environmental factors that will stress the baby more than others, or if there are any parts of the transport that will stress the baby more, and then try to work on innovative technology like noise cancelling to reduce the sound, or to work with the air companies to see if there are any ways of decrease the vibration during transport. And Airbus, they told us that they are working on solutions to reduce like spilling of coffee during transport for the passengers, and why couldn't they find any solutions to reduce vibration so we can prevent any brain bleed in these neonates, for example. Thank you for your attention. And then I put also like the name of our website, which is called neotrans.no, and that is only in Norwegian. Okay, thank you.